What if Deku joined Team JPDE? Chapter 13. Catching the Culprit. Tuesday. Day 37. All of Team JPDE were now back at school. David and Evelyn had fully healed from their injuries. Deku, though, was still healing. He would be back to normal by Wednesday evening, though he was able to attend classes. And so, he'll probably keep on wearing my old outfit, David said. Considering this flame has been referred to as some kind of object, wouldn't using it be more correct? Penny asked. Kind of hard to refer to someone with my own face, isn't it? Also, he has a personality and all. He feels like a person, so I'm going to treat him as such, David said. You're right, Penny said. No more miraculous saves, I guess. Also, I feel like I should apologize for leading us into danger, Jack said. It kind of comes with the job, doesn't it? Nothing much we can do about a little danger, David said. And how were you supposed to know about Harold, anyway? Evelyn said. Evelyn's right, you didn't willingly expose us to any danger you knew about, Deku said. Except the Grim, but it wouldn't have been much of a training without enemies, Penny said. True. Still, I'm certain they will target David again in the future. We need to learn more about Howard and whoever his allies are, Jack said. Also, I think learning more about the flame may shed some light on their motives, Penny said. I never heard of anything like it before. It sounds like some kind of mythical object, but those only exist in myths or fairy tales, Evelyn said. Well, I guess we should research some fairy tales, then, David said. Seriously? Evelyn asked. Seriously. Considering what people deal with on Remnant daily, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if one or two fairy tales were true stories, David said. Makes sense. And we don't have many leads, so let's see if we can find some, Deku said. I agree as well, Amber said. What the fuck? David shouted. Amber then appeared before David. Amber. Do not do that, David said. Don't do what? Amber asked. Amber. Who's Amber? Jack asked. Oh, your friend you were worried about. Where is she? Penny asked. Where are you even looking at? She's right here, David said. No, she's not, Evelyn said. I'm sorry, but you seem to be the only one able to see and hear me, David, Amber said. Deku then moved his hand where Amber was stood. Izuku. What are you doing? Evelyn asked. David. Is my hand going through Amber? Deku asked. Yes. But how do you know where she is? David asked. I may not be able to see her. But I can hear her, Deku said. What the others said. David. Izuku. Are you sure you are feeling alright? Jack asked. Maybe you two should have taken a longer period of rest, Evelyn asked. No. Girls, I know this may sound a bit out there, but, you see, I met this girl called Amber, in the amphitheater and well, I think she may be a ghost. Or something, David said. You definitely need more rest, Evelyn said. I wouldn't say so. If David and Izuku are seeing and hearing things, then they wouldn't at least hear the same things, Penny said. That's fair. But they could be hearing two different voices, Jack said. Oh, come on. Weren't we talking about how fairy tales could have truth to them just a couple minutes ago? David asked. Fairy tales maybe, but partner, this is a ghost story, Jack said. So David said. They are, as they say, tots different things, Penny said. No, they're not. They both include mythical elements. And who says fairy tales can't have ghosts in them? Deku said. Okay. I think you two are just tired and the flame in David's body may be messing with your vision. And returning to our original subject. We have to start somewhere. It may give us hints. What about we make next Thursday a group study day? Jack said. It's not a vision. She's here, I tell you, David said. We can go to the library for fairy tales, but how are we going to gather information on Howard's group? Evelyn asked. Don't ignore me, David said. Jack, Penny and Evelyn then left. They are fun. I like them, Amber said. Do you, now? David said. And, sorry for startling you earlier. I hadn't considered the fact that you can't hear or see me unless I choose to reveal myself, Amber said. It's fine. Just until I can find some way to convince them. Maybe wait until we're alone for conversations, David said. I agree. Oh, and may I suggest the salad, today? The dressing looks absolutely delicious, Amber said. So you like your greens? Deku asked. Yes. They are healthy and delicious. But I have to ask, how can you hear me? Amber asked. I have no idea, Deku said. Anyway. Can you not put your hand in me? It feels weird, Amber said. Oh, sorry, Deku said. David and Deku then joined the others in the mess hall. After eating lunch, Evelyn and Deku went back to their apartment so Evelyn could get Deku's measurements. Okay, Izuku. Strip, Evelyn said. Could you not say it like that? Deku asked, blushing. Okay. Izu, strip for mommy, Evelyn said. Never mind, Deku said. Evelyn laughed. I'll strip if it makes you feel more comfortable, Evelyn said. That would make me more uncomfortable. And I don't want you saying that we were naked in the same room, Deku said. You know me so well, Evelyn said. Deku then got out of his uniform. Evelyn then began to take his measurements. Your clothes do nothing for your body, Evelyn said. How? Deku said. I mean, look at you. All muscular, but when you put on any clothes, the muscles just disappear, Evelyn said. So, what of it? Deku asked. Your new outfit need to be tighter and be less covering, the world needs to see your body, Evelyn said. Evelyn. No, Deku said. What? It's true, Evelyn said. But I don't want that. I don't want any changes to my outfit, Deku said. Fine. I won't make any changes, Evelyn sadly said. Fine, you can change to colors. Keep the green, Deku said. Yeah, Evelyn said. She then hugged Deku. Evelyn, Deku said. Oh, sorry, Evelyn said. Evelyn then knelt down and began to measure Deku's legs. Hey Izuku. I got your message and I know I'm Ruby said, entering the room and seeing Evelyn on her knees. Oh my gods. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, Ruby said. Ruby. It's not what it looks like, Deku said. Ruby then ran off. Deku went to put on his clothes and chase after Ruby, at the same time Evelyn stood up to chase after Ruby. Deku and Evelyn then fell down, Deku's face landing in her chest. Hello there, Evelyn said. Deku quickly removed his face from her boobs. Sorry, Deku said. I'll stop her, Evelyn said. Evelyn then flipped over onto his front and then crawled out. She then stood up and ran after Ruby. As she did, Deku saw her white panties. Deku then put his uniform back on and followed the rose petals. I'm so sorry, Ruby said. Ruby. It's fine, Deku said. Yeah, we should have locked the door, Evelyn said. But I should have knocked on the door and come at the right time, Ruby said. Hey. We are all to blame for what happened, Evelyn said. Yeah. But can we please just forget this, Deku asked. Yes. I don't want Young to know about this. Or anyone else, Ruby said. So do I. Well, talk about my gear tomorrow, Deku said. Okay, Ruby said. Ruby then left and Deku and Evelyn went back to their dorm room. I do, Evelyn said. Yes, Deku asked. What do you think about sex, Evelyn asked. What, Deku asked. What do you think about sex, Evelyn asked. I heard you the first time. But why are you asking that? Deku asked. Well, considering what just happened. I'm just curious, Evelyn asked. Well, I've never really thought about it. I am only 16, Deku said. But you're a hunter now. You are considered an adult and thus considered legal, Evelyn said. It's not really legality. It's just that I never really thought about having sex, Deku said. So you don't masturbate? Evelyn asked. Why are you being so open about this? Deku said. Because it's just sex. I bet you've seen some students sucking face and heard them going at it, Evelyn said. Well, I have, but Deku said. You've never thought about doing it, Evelyn said. I haven't. I am a virgin, Deku said. So am I. But that doesn't change what I think about sex, Evelyn said. So, you want to have sex with someone? Deku asked. Yes. Due to my faunus nature, I enter heat cycles. But due to me working for Ozpin, I haven't had the chance to get a boyfriend, Evelyn said. So, you're going to try and get a boyfriend while you're here? Deku asked. Not try, I will get a boyfriend. And very soon, Evelyn said. I see, Deku said. Now let's get back to your measurements, Evelyn said. But let's lock the door this time, Deku said. Nice and private. No interruptions this time, Evelyn said. Wednesday. Day 38. You know, partner, I've been thinking, David said. Right before lunch. Try not to strain yourself, Jack said. Anyway, I was thinking. I probably gained more fighting experience with our excursions in the wild than with any of these sparring matches, David said. Well, considering we were attacked by a real threat. That's to be expected. Field training is always more effective, Deku said. You're starting to notice the limits, Jack asked. Yeah. I mean, these kind of matches are useful in tournament setting, but most fights in real life don't take place in arenas, David said. They don't. Which is why only first-year students of combat academies go through this kind of training. As Izuku said, field work is always more effective and from the second year onwards. Actually, the final exam of the first years is a real-life mission, under the supervision of a veteran hunter, Jack said. Ah, so I'm already thinking of the second-year curriculum, David asked. Heh, pretty much. Although, you know, there's an exception, Jack said. What kind of exception? Deku asked. I said students of combat academies, no. Truth be told, there's one of the big four academies which makes students go on real-life missions from the get-go, Jack said. Even first-year students? David asked. Yup. It's actually in my, Jack said. You're in the way, a voice said. The three realized that they had been standing and talking right in front of the main door. Oh, sorry, Deku said. The girl had a red and white hoodie and wore a black beanie. I'm sorry, we got caught up in our conversation, Jack said. It's fine. I know you weren't doing it on purpose, the girl said. Yeah. Things happen when you focus, no, David asked. They shouldn't, the girl said. Excuse me, Deku asked. Concentrating is important. But you should never be so focused that you forget about your surroundings unless someone is watching your back. You don't exist in a vacuum. That's one of the first things they'll teach you when you start taking missions for your school, the girl said. Very true. But I think one can relax at least a little in a scholastic mess hall, no, Jack asked. Hey. I wonder. Anyway. I'm Maisie Dong. And the school you're thinking of is Shade, from Vacuo, May said. May then walked away. Phew. She was intense, David said. A bit too serious, maybe. But I guess that's how you end up, growing up in Vacuo, Jack said. You're from Vacuo, David asked. I only lived there the first few years of my life and my family was rich. That's a very big difference. And Vacuo is a very different place from Vale, Jack said. I see, David said. After having lunch, Deku went to get his cast and bandages removed. Deku was now in Team RWBY's room with Ruby. "So what's this thing about weapons?" Ruby asked. "I'm sure you have heard about the Appel that attacked us in the Emerald Forest," Deku said. "I have. Can't believe that an Appel attacked you guys." "I'm so glad you're okay," Ruby said. "Yes. But during its attack my outfit got destroyed and one of my Air Force gauntlets was destroyed as well. And while Evelyn is going to make me a new outfit, I need your help in making a new gauntlet," Deku said. "Oh, sure. I'll be able to help. We already have the blueprints of it, so this should be a piece of cake," Ruby said. "Great. But also, I would like to upgrade my Air Force and Iron Souls," Deku said. "Oh, okay. What upgrades do you want?" Ruby asked. "I would like to add dust capabilities. Like with David's gauntlets," Deku said. "Yeah, I can do that. I should have that done by the weekend," Ruby said. "You mean we, Ruby?" Deku said. "Oh right," Ruby said. "Now can I leave you to design the changes, because I need to go into Vale with Evelyn to get cloth for my outfit," Deku said. "Yeah. That's fine. I'll have it designed by the time you get back," Ruby said. "Thanks, Ruby. I owe you one," Deku said. Deku then left and met up with Evelyn and then they headed into Vale. "So I have made a few designs. I want you to look through them and choose the one you like. And then we can get the cloth," Evelyn said. "Okay," Deku said. Deku then looked through Evelyn's design book. He flicked through the book until he found a design he liked. "I like this one," Deku said. "Okay. Let's go," Evelyn said. The two then began to walk to the shop when they turned the corner and saw a sea of people. "Very busy today," Deku said. "Yeah. I've never seen Vale this busy," Evelyn said. "And we have to walk through that," Deku said. "Of course, the shop is in the middle of the sea," Evelyn said. Deku and Evelyn then began to make their way through the sea of people. As they made their way through the people, Deku and Evelyn were split up. As Evelyn tried to catch up with Deku, she was knocked over. As she fell, she went to cover her head and closed her eyes, but then... "Are you okay, Evelyn?" Deku asked. Evelyn opened her eyes to see she was being bear hugged by Deku. "Yeah. Thanks to you, my hero," Evelyn said. "Let's move together," Deku said. Evelyn nodded. The two then held hands as they made their way to the shop. The two then entered the shop and got the cloth. They soon exited the shop and luckily by then the sea of people had gone. "Thank gods the sea is gone," Evelyn said. "I would not have liked to walk through that again," Deku said. The two then began to walk back to the Bullhead Landing. "Hey. Did you find it strange how the worker were looking at us and talking to us?" Evelyn asked. "Yeah. It was almost like they thought we were," Deku said. Deku and Evelyn then realized that they were still holding hands. The two blushed and looked away and stopped holding hands. They remained silent between each other on the way back. Thursday. Day 39. Lessons were over for today and Glinda had arrived. "A moment if you will, children. Starting on Monday, Professor Topaz will go back to teaching aura classes only," Glinda said. "Oh. So he was a substitute teacher?" Evelyn asked. "We joined the school half a year in, so we didn't know," Penny said. "Professor Peach finished her maternity leave, and will be taking care of her class once again," Glinda said. "Or Ruby said." "Really?" Weiss asked. Due to Ruby's and Weiss's mixed reaction, Deku wondered what Professor Peach was like. The students were then allowed to go. "There's a lot of students," a red-haired girl said. "Yes," a black-haired girl said. "Not as many boys as back in Vacuo, though," the red-haired girl said. "I've noticed," the black-haired girl said. "Anyone caught your eye yet?" the red-haired girl asked. "Octavia, no," black-haired girl said. I guess the offer is so large that it gave you cold feet on making a decision, Octavia said. I'm not making any decisions, the black-haired girl said. But Gwen, this is your chance to turn the trend around. It's a new school, new ground, Octavia said. The problem is the only thing that's remained the same. Gwen said. Oh, nonsense. We've been working on you, haven't we? Even if I still fail to see results concerning the Delph Esteem Sphere, Octavia said. Among other things, Gwen said. Gwen, if you don't try, you won't succeed. It's just a matter of percentages, really. Most advances don't go through anyway, Octavia said. That's what you said last time. And the time before that. And the other 48, Gwen said. Perfectly normal, Octavia said. I don't know, Octavia. Maybe I'm just not ready, Gwen said. You'll never be if you stop trying. I think you just need the right incentive. And here they are, Octavia said. Excuse me, Gwen asked. 2 targets. 6 o'clock, Okatvia said. Gwen looked over to see Evelyn, David and Deku. You like tall blondes and cute boys, don't you, Octavia asked. I do like tall blondes, but... Come on, look at that cute girl next to him. I bet it's his girlfriend, Gwen said. No, she isn't. Trust me, I have an eye for these things. And the cute boy next to him is also free, so you could ask him instead, Octavia said. Still. Octavia, I haven't gotten any better or more confident at flirting or making casual talk, Gwen said. Then don't, Octavia said. What, Gwen asked. Just put on your best smile and ask one of them if he'd like to go with you. If he says no. Asks the other one, Octavia said. That's ridiculous. Who in their right mind would say yes, Gwen asked. Maybe the both of them. Go on, show me what you got, Octavia said. Gwen then put on her best smile. It has a lot of personality, Octavia said. It's horrifying, it's what it is, Gwen said. Oh no. The ones from a couple months ago, that was horrifying. This is just awkward. We can work with awkward. Just go there and ask them. And remember, the worst that can happen is that they say no, Octavia said. Gwen then put on her brave face and went over to Evelyn, David and Deku. Hey, Greenie, Gwen stuttered. Huh, Deku said. What, David said. Honey, are you alright there? Looks like you're having a stroke, Evelyn said. No, I'm sorry, I was just wondering if you'd like to go on a date with me, Gwen asked. Deku went redder than ever. Not even Evelyn's antics could have made him this red. You? What, Evelyn asked. Oh. Look at you, Izuku. Got yourself an admirer, David teased. It's very sudden, I know, hello, Gwen said. Deku was just standing there, his face still red, muttering. I think you broke him, David said. Does this count as a rejection, Gwen asked herself. Yeah, honey. You've broken him to a higher extent than I have, Evelyn said. Oh, so you're dating? I'm sorry, Gwen said. Actually, Evelyn said. So, Blondie, would you like to go on a date? I know I've just moved from one, Gwen said. Sure, David said. You? What, Gwen said. What, Evelyn said. Sure. I'll go on a date with you, David said. Someone actually found that charming. Who is this person, Octavia thought. But Gwen stuttered. What's wrong, David asked. I mean you. And You weren't. My smile. 50 times. And you. And then. I don't, Gwen said. Gwen then ran away. As I thought, David said. David, what? What just happened, Evelyn asked. I guess you didn't notice, but there was another girl looking at us. She was dressed similarly. Whatever was happening here, considering how uncomfortable the girl looked. I think she was pushed into it by that other girl, David said. So, she wasn't really asking me out, Deku asked, having finally calmed down. Nope, David said. So you called her bluff, I guess, Evelyn said. Yup, David said. What if she actually wanted to go out with either of you, Evelyn asked. Please? I'm me. She was probably just using me to get out of an awkward situation of asking out your boyfriend, David teased. David, Deku shouted, flustered. David then walked away. What about you, Aiju? Evelyn asked. I'm not used to random girls asking me out. I don't know if I would have said yes. But if I got to know her better, then maybe. But as David said, she was put up to it, and I doubt anyone would fall for me at just a glance, Deku said. Deku then walked away. But what if they got to know you better? The both of you? Evelyn said. Evelyn sighed. I need to make up my mind, Evelyn said. Team JPDE were now in the library, trying to find any information about the flame. But they had no luck. No flames here, Evelyn said. Same results, Penny said. Got nothing on any flames, Deku said. And idem. No mention of flames anywhere, Jack said. I have to say, though, the library doesn't really have that extensive of a section on myths and fairy tales, Penny said. Well, it is a school and that's pretty much fiction, David said. It's culturally relevant fiction, though, Evelyn said. Also, Jack said. Yes. The new number of X-Ray and Vorvjan said. I came to return this, Blake said. Oh, finally. I can't wait to see if the late-night visits of Matsutake get discovered, the librarian said. Yeah, there's really no excuse to not have an anthological section, Jack said. We should check out the bookshop in Vale, Penny said. Also see if we can find anyone able to tell us more about Howard. Maybe we could ask Young about that, Evelyn asked. Why Young exactly, David asked. Well, she knows the owner of Juniors and there are rumors about the guy having some ties to the criminal underworld, Evelyn said. We could ask her at the party this Saturday, Deku said. Hey. I don't think that will be possible, Evelyn said. Why not, Deku asked. Evelyn stands from her chair and walks in between David and Deku. She then touches their chests and then slowly slides her hands down their bodies to their abdomen and off their hips. This action makes them shiver and flush. I think some of us will be occupied that night, Evelyn said. Evelyn then walks out of the library. What was that all about, Deku asked. I think I understand, Penny said. You do, David asked. No one on our team has ever gone to a part. She must look forward to all the dancing, Penny said. Anyway, are you going dressed up? I will probably go with the new clothes you got me, David said. I was thinking about just going in the Beacon uniform, Jack said. Oh, that's a nice idea. I guess I'll do the same, Penny said. I'll go in my new hunter outfit. Evelyn said it would be done in time for the party, Deku said. I see. Did you manage to catch a glimpse of Evelyn's project, David asked. Not a peep. It's kind of impressive, considering we're roommates, Jack said. She probably wants it to be a surprise, Penny said. I did get a glimpse of it when she was taking my measurements, but it had no shape, Deku said. Deku had called Blake so that they could read the book again. Hey, Blake. You free to read, Deku asked. Deku then heard Blake yawn. Sorry, Ijuku. I'm busy today, Blake said. Oh, okay. What about tomorrow, Deku asked. Sorry. I'm busy tomorrow as well. In fact, I have no more time for our reading sessions. So finish the book without me, Blake said. But Blake, Deku said. Bork then hung up. What's going on with her? Deku asked. It was now night time, and Team JPDE had gone to bed. In the middle of the night Penny was woken up by a noise. She looked around the room and saw that everyone in bed, except for Deku. She wondered where Deku was, but then she heard a noise again. The noise was coming from the bathroom. She got up and headed over to the bathroom door. She noticed that it wasn't locked. She pushed the door ajar and saw something she shouldn't have seen. She saw Izuku pleasuring himself. Fuck, Deku moaned. Oh my, Penny whispered. That stupid bunny and ginger, Deku said. He's talking about me and Evelyn, Penny said, blushing. This made Penny very happy. I never thought Izuku would do something like this. But I'm very happy that he and David both find me attractive enough to use me as materials, Penny said. Fuck. Fuck. Fuck, Deku said, as then he finished. Penny blushed even more as she saw Deku release his load. As Deku cleaned up his mess, Penny went back to her bed, thinking about David and Deku. Would they be up for it? Would Evelyn be up for it? Penny asked herself, as she climbed into bed. I'll ask after the party. Don't want to ruin Evelyn's night with either of them. But for now, Penny said. Penny then lifted her down up, to see her butt and green panties. She then pretended to be asleep. Soon Deku came out of the bathroom. She saw what Penny had done. He walked over to her. Like what you see, Penny thought. Deku then grabbed Penny's gun and pulled it over her butt, before climbing into bed. Penny blushed, she smiled from ear to ear before she went to sleep. Friday. Day 40. Deku was making his way to class when he saw Young standing outside the classroom looking sad. Hey, Young. Is something wrong? Deku asked. Izuku. Well, not with me. I'm just waiting for Blake, Young said. Blake. Is she late? Deku asked. Yeah. She slept in so she didn't show up to breakfast with us. I worry that she's going to skip breakfast and come here directly. If that happens I'm going to send her back, Young said. Sorry for prying, but... Is she in trouble? Deku asked. What makes you ask that? Young asked. Well, I remember that when we went to Vale. She must have told you, right? Deku asked. Yeah, Young said. Also, she mentioned that she was causing you to worry. Is that again? Deku asked. But worse. She's not in trouble per se, but she's tremendously overexerting herself. Worse than before, Young said. I see. When I called about reading she sounded very tired and said she was too busy to finish our book, Deku said. Damn it. Those reading sessions with you were keeping her from doing this. Now she's just being self-destructive with no breaks, Young said. Can I help in any way? Deku asked. If you could at least try. When she went in Vale with you, despite the outcome, was the only time I can remember in weeks where she willingly took a break, Young said. I'll do what I can. Now we should probably get to class, shouldn't we? Deku said. I guess she decided to not show up and think about her health. That's a step forward, isn't it? Young asked. Young and Deku then entered the classroom. Blake, however, was in the corridor, not that far away. You coming, David? Deku asked. Yes, sorry for the wait, David said. I needed to grab Johnny again, David said. Oh, right, you asked the professor for tips about how to channel aura into it, right? Jack asked. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't really having any problems with it, but I still wanted a second opinion considering, David said. Wait, a voice said. How? The three said. A girl with greenish yellow hair approached them. Is that a whip? The girl asked. Yes, David said. You, Jack said. Do you want to duel me? The girl asked. How? What? David said. Hey. So the rumors were true, Jack said. Rumors? What are you talking about? Do you know her? Deku asked. No, another voice said. Another girl, with purple hair, walked up to them. What did I tell you about challenging strangers to a duel? The purple-haired girl asked. Not to do it, Dew said. Introduce yourself then. Come, the girl said. Fine. My name is Dew said. Oh, David. Dik Begis Darvi said. Nice to meet you, David. Do you wanna duel me? Dew asked. Why would I want to? David asked. I've never fought anyone who fights with a whip, Dew said. That's still you, David said. So I'm not good enough for you? Dew asked. That's not what I said, David shouted. Dew, just let it go. It's clear the poor guy isn't up to it, the girl said. Or Dew said. Sorry about that. My partner is an amateur, so duels are a bit beyond him right now, Jack said. Oh man. And Dew still has to leave the arena mindset behind. A match made in heaven, huh, the girl said. Hey. So it is you, Jack said. Indeed, it is us. And speaking of which, we got a teammate who's probably going to start acting up a storm if we don't get to the mess hall. We should go, the girl said. Heh, I get it. See you around, then, Jack said. Absolutely. Say bye, Dew, the girl said. Bye, Dew said. The two then left. I don't think she's given up about the duel yet, partner, Jack said. I figured. Jack, who were those girls? Friends of yours? David asked. Not really. I just know them by name. Remember Pyra? Jack asked. What about Pyra? David asked. They are professional fighters, aren't they? Deku asked. Yes. Just like Pyra got famous from her professional fighter career for being unbeaten in one-on-one circuits. Those two were members of a similarly unbeaten group from the team circuits. Gale and the leader, Jack said. Oh my gods, what the hell? There I went talking about Dew and then I go and forget to introduce myself. I'm Nebula via leader of Team NDGO, Nebula said. Oh, hello. Nice to meet you, David said. Likewise. Gotta go now. Ciao, Nebula said. Nebula then dashed off. And, as you can tell, part of their popularity also comes from the eccentricities of each member. I had heard they had left the circuits and joined Shade Academy, but I just thought it a rumor, Jack said. I see. I think Deku and Evelyn actually met the other two members of the team, yesterday. And if they are here as transfer students, David said. They are definitely going to take part in the Vital tournament, yes, Jack said. Let's hope we don't end up fighting them, Deku said. The three then left the corridor. Oh no, Nebula said. She then ran back to where she met Jack, Deku and David. No, they're gone. I haven't even tried to ask that boys and girls' names. I bet they going to think I'm just another stuck-up celebrity who's too good to mingle with plebs despite being a student myself, now. Oh, no, what if they start spreading the rumor around? How would that look? And then through the grapevine, and to the tabloids and back home, where they are going to harass mom and dad about how they could raise such a daughter, Nebula said. Dew then walked up and began to drag Nebula away. And coach. Oh my gods, he's gonna kill someone. Last time they tried harassing him for questions, he punted someone so far into the mountainside that Nebula said. Saturday. Day 41. Deku had called Weiss so that they can go into Vale to find out where the culprit got the seeds. Ready to hit the town? Weiss asked. You know it. Meet you at the Bullhead Landing, Deku said. Weiss and Deku made their way to the Bullhead Landing and then into Vale. Now, where should we start looking? Deku asked. Well, I have a location-based app on my scroll for looking up establishments and shops. Should we try that? Weiss asked. Sure. If we can't find the seeds. We can ask someone on Main Street, Deku said. Well, will you look at that? There's actually a stall in the market that specializes in dry snacks, Weiss said. Sounds like a good place to start, Deku said. I agree. Let's go, Weiss said. Weiss and Deku made their way to the market. The stall is near the middle. The owner is an elderly faunus woman. So, maybe it'd be better if I hang back for this one, Weiss said. Is the whole situation making you self-conscious, Deku asked. This case is an extreme, true, but I have to face the fact that my presence, Weiss said. The two then see a pudgy guy dressed in the beacon uniform. They see that he is a faunus due to his huge buck teeth. He's also got particularly puffy cheeks, wears glasses, and he's holding up a bag containing a number of those seeds. For some reason, he eats directly out of the bag. I know it's bad to judge people, but Deku said. Just asking a couple questions. Won't be bad, right? Weiss asked. Okay. We are just investigating, Deku said. Deku then walks up to the store. Excuse me. You are a beacon student too, right? Deku asked. The guy stops eating and slowly raises his eyes to look at Deku. His eyes then widen when he sees Weiss. The fuzz, the guy said. The what? Deku asked. The fuzz, the guy said. He then speeds off in the opposite direction. Alright, that's definitely the culprit, Weiss said. After him, Deku said. Weiss and Deku then gave chase. Stop right there. You're the guy who's been hanging up those flyers, aren't you? Deku asked. Why are you using plural, you nincompoop? It was just the one before you started taking them down, the culprit said. But why are you doing it? Weiss asked. A preemptive strike against the evils of the Shnee Empire. Take this, the culprit said. Are you throwing Haldeton seeds at us? Weiss asked. The pristine white miss of evil cannot handle the filth of freedom, the culprit yelled. What are you even talking about? Deku asked. The two continued to chase the culprit all around Vale. Dust, he's fast for such a pudgy little guy, Weiss said. How can he be pudgy with all the training we get put through? Deku asked. Your pathetic attempts at comprehending my greatness fails against my semblance. It allows me to exponentially increase the amount of calories that get absorbed by my body, the culprit said. So you have a semblance that could potentially be used to go without food for days, making you an incredible asset on long-term missions in the wild. And you use IT to stay fat, Weiss yelled. They continued to chase the culprit. Night had now fallen over Vale. As the pasta shop called from dusk till dawn. The shopkeeper tripped over the culprit. Thanks. Sir David works here, right? Deku said. The shopkeeper just nodded. Traitor, the culprit yelled. Now. Can we just talk for a minute? Deku asked. Why are you spreading those lies about me? I'm not a plant by my father, Weiss said. Like I'd ever believe you, the culprit said. But why? Weiss asked. Because you're his flesh and blood. You were born a Shnee, born that person's daughter, and brought up in his household. It's 100% certain that you're evil, the culprit said. Well, that's totally unfair. Just because she's his daughter does not mean she's like him. So, if your parents are a certain way and you get brought up in their home, it's a guarantee that you'll end up like them. That's rubbish, Deku said. Not in her case, the culprit said. And why is that? Deku asked. Because she's a Shnee. Duh, the culprit said. That's. Are you? Weiss said. Now come on. Do your worst. It'll just prove what's already clear to the entire world. And bring more people to the cause, the culprit said. Weiss' hands shake, balled into fists. She bites her lower lip and looks at the ground frustrated. We won't be doing anything, Deku said. What? Weiss said. What is this? Some trick, the culprit asked. No trick, Deku said. Izuku. What are you doing? Weiss asked. If we hurt you, it'll just prove our point. But we can get someone else to do it, Deku said. Of course you'll get some goon to do your dirty work, the culprit said. I don't think Professor Goodwitch would appreciate being called a goon, Deku said. This made the culprit froze. You're right. We should use the proper channels to deal with this, Weiss said. That won't be necessary, the culprit said. But as an evil Shnee, I should use the legal means to deal with you, Weiss said. Alright, fine, you win. I won't do it anymore, the culprit said. So? No more flyers, Deku asked. No, the culprit said. Or any other physical medium to spread misinformation, Weiss asked. No, the culprit said. Then we're done, Weiss said. Damn you, Shnee. I'll get you, one day, the culprit said. The culprit then ran off. I did not think you had it in you to threaten him, Weiss said. If it's to protect my friends, then I'll do anything, Deku said. Thanks, Weiss said, blushing. The two then began to walk. I'm famished, Weiss said. Want to grab something to eat before going back to Beacon, Deku asked. Absolutely. But first I need to take a break from all that walking, Weiss said. Oh yeah, a sit-down sounds wonderful, right now, Deku said. Weiss and Deku then sat down on a bench. Thank you, Izuku, Weiss said. It was my pleasure. And we had fun, didn't we, Deku asked. Despite how everything started. I'd say yes. He's probably going to keep posting stuff on the network, isn't he, Weiss asked. Yup. But he'll just become one of many people who spread misinformation about you. But I don't think people will listen to his crazy thoughts, Deku said. Does it sound crazy? I mean, Weiss said. It does to me, Deku said. But you know me better than most people, Weiss said. Yeah. But I still don't know that much about you. All I know is that you like dust and that you're rich, Deku said. I guess you're right. Say, as thanks for your help, I'll treat you with a day in Vale, Weiss said. Okay. I'll let you know when I'm free, Deku said. Great. Let's just hope more rumors don't spring up, Weiss said. I doubt you'll ever be able to escape that. Until you show the world who you really are, Deku said. Might be hard with my father infamy, Weiss said. Then you better do your best, Deku said. End of chapter 13.